Hello, my friend. Welcome to my timeline. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Jess. I'm so happy that you have decided to join me today. I have a bit of a story to tell. It's one that I've been thinking about for on and off, actually, pretty consistently for the past few weeks. And it's one that I don't really understand. And I've, kind of put it to whatever force there is in this world to basically say, hey, I don't really understand what this was. Um, if it's time for me to understand, I'm super open to receiving that information. And before pressing record, I just pulled an oracle card, and it talks about orbs. And that's what reminded me again of this story, or this experience that happened to me when I was a child. And, there's these moments in your life where these kind of strange things happen to you, and you just don't really understand what they were. And I feel like I might have asked an adult or someone when I was a kid, maybe, and they were probably like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm sure it just never came up again because I thought I was imagining it. But I have this memory, and it's hard to place exactly where I was. I know I was at my dad's house, and I was probably 7, 8 at the time. And I have this vision in my mind. I have this thought that there was this glowing orb, and I went inside of it. Could I tell you what I saw? No. But what I keep bringing to mind is the fact that I remember this glowing orb, and I stepped inside of it. And it's like, why, as an adult, why does this memory, and or why does this experience keep flashing in my mind? What does it mean? And is there a significance to it that I need to unravel in this conscious state? And so this card, it talks about evolution. And it's reminding me of the idea of a sphere or a helix or a spiral, essentially. And as we learn lessons, as we grow in this life, our life begins to change. And the interesting thing about the helix shape is that it indicates that you circle back. You're on another level, but you can still kind of circle back to specific things in your life because it's part of a pattern. But the idea is that you're going up. And so even though you might be experiencing some older patterns coming in, you have evolved, and or in theory you've begun to learn the lesson, or you're navigating away from that lesson, so you can kind of see it from a higher perspective as oh, this is a part of my life, but it's not something that I have to actively worry about. I'm just continuing to spiral my way up in this evolutionary ladder. And the other image that comes to mind is, if anyone watches, so I know it's a book, but I haven't read the book, but I've watched the Wheel of Time. And let me know if anyone else is watching that, because I really enjoyed the show, and I haven't read the books, but I watched the show. But the image that's coming to my mind is that of the archway. Oh, am I going to mess up the quote as I always do? Of course I am. Basically, there's this initiation, this test, and there's an archway. And the person on this, I'm going to call it a pilgrimage or this quest or this test, the person goes in, they step into the archway, but they're told, they're like, the way back only appears once. The archway only, and I'm going to mess it up. It sounds way better than it is. But the way home only appears once. The archway only appears once. Essentially saying that when you're in a space and you're in a spiritual test, if you want to move on, like the orb, the archway, the door, it appears only once, which is like a hard thing to accept, right? You want to believe that we have like a million different chances, and like I think you do. It's more subtle than that in real life, but anyways. So this image of the archway is coming to mind, and I'm wondering, I'm like, is this orb that I'm picturing, or this something? I'm like, was that an archway? Was that a portal? Was that something so super spiritual in my childhood that happened to me that like I can't really explain, and it's just been in my mind for so long? Did I make it up, or was it actually something that happened to me as a child? And will that ever happen again? To my conscious awareness, it hasn't happened since that moment. And then it makes me, kind of connect the dots on a lot of the things that I've been learning or amalgamating in my thought process in regards to, we've talked a lot about the idea of, death and rebirth in your current existence, and learning lessons, growing, jumping timelines, like taking portals. Like there's a lot of different language that you can kind of like bring in. But it's essentially saying like you evolving as a person. And in order for us to walk through that archway, it's like when you get to the end of a spiritual test and you see the glowing orb, you see the archway, do you choose to walk through it, knowing that you have to pretty much like leave everything else behind you, and you have no idea, you don't really know what's on the other side. It's new, it's brand new. And I'm sitting here being like, well, this is everything that I know. This is everything that I know. And I have no idea what's on the other side of it. And I hear somebody saying like, that's pretty dramatic. Your life can't change that much. But like, you don't know that. I don't know that. You think about the language of people saying quantum leaps, and there's this language of, the new earth, and there's this really like quantum galactic language that, at least in my world, I keep hearing about. And it becomes challenging to navigate through. For me, I feel very fixed in a lot of aspects. You can tell me anything and I'm like, sure, like I can believe absolutely anything. But I'm the type of person that really has to like live through something or see it with my own eyes in order to digest that information and really, really understand it and internalize it. And so I hear this information, this language about, these portals, these timelines, these galactic anything, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I haven't experienced it myself. So I don't know how to really understand that and integrate it into my current life. But then I think about these moments that I've had where things don't make sense, or they make perfect sense, and it's like so divine and so magical, and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't help but believe that there's something, and I might not be able to define what that is, but there is something. And so I had this moment as a child. And then I had this other really beautiful experience. I'm looking right now at a feather. I don't know. I can't even tell you. I don't remember where this feather came from. I can't remember. I just can't remember. And I don't know who it's from. But I had this really special experience a few years back. I believe it was it was a new moon or a full moon. It was in September of 2020. We had I don't even know where we went, but we went on like a little vacation. We went to this little cottage, and Josh ended up getting really sick. And at the beginning, we basically got there, and he just ended up getting so sick. And so he was basically like in the cabin. I went outside, made a fire, and I wanted to have this ritual. I wanted to, it was a new moon or full moon ritual. And so I had this beautiful ritual. It was wonderful. And then the next morning, we were right by the water. And it was like my first morning pages book, like my first one. And I remember I went to the ocean, and I decided to read it out loud. And I had written, I don't remember what it was, probably some wishes, some intentions, or something of that nature. And I wrote things down, and I threw it in the water. It was like, the start of me performing certain, basically rituals. Essentially, I don't know if I got it from someone or if I was just called to do it, but I gave it to the water. And it was so beautiful because I was reading this one entry, and it basically said, something along the lines of like, it was like basically me being like, are you there, God? It's me, Jess. And I was reading it out loud, and I was like, and it was talking about like, how do I know that you're there? Like, what am I doing? How do I know? And then what was it? All of a sudden, I look up, and there were like 6, probably 5 or 6, 5 to 8. I don't even know what they were, but in hindsight, I think that they might have been hawks. And like, they all started just flying around me as I was speaking out this question to God, like, are you there? Like, are you there? Are you listening? And these birds, and I got scared. I like got up and I was like, are they gonna come like attack me? And I remember it being a very impactful moment. But only upon reflection did I realize it was a beautiful sign of like what feels like a confirmation or a initiation of like, yes, like I am here. Like you are here. You are walking down this path of evolution and I am here with you. I'm just staring at this beautiful feather. And I think about this path that I'm walking down in this evolution, and I don't know all the answers, of course, but I have to believe that there's something to this, and there's a reason why I've had these experiences, and there's a reason why I have to bring them forth and to express them to the world. And I'm like so embarrassed and like in my head right now because I'm like, did anything make sense that you just said? Like, did any of these stories, like the portal and the orbs and the feather, like, does any of that connect? And now I'm all in my head about it, but I just feel like, I don't know, it just feels like super vulnerable right now. So if you're still here, thank you for holding space for me. And thank you for listening. Gosh, if you ever had any of these moments, or if you have anything that you wanna share and you feel like being brave, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I love getting to chat about all things. Honestly, like I like to say all things faith, no matter what you believe in. Cause like I don't even know what I feel like I don't even know what I believe in. I try to talk about my faith and I'm like, I don't quite have a defined I don't have a defined version of what that is, but just faith in the magical is kind of where I am. So yeah, if you have any stories and you're willing to share, please, 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 please feel free. I would love to hear. I would love to hold space for you if you feel like sharing. And with that, my friends, have a beautiful day. I'll see you tomorrow.